All right, hello. Wednesdays, June 3rd, 2026, London Open session trading. Let's start with the daily chart and the pre-market analysis. All right, so we can see price kept extending on the upside. Pretty much no down close since 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days. And we are keep on advancing above the highs, previous day's highs, while leaving the previous day's lows rather intact, but we build up a very nice relatively lows on the sell side here. So that's kind of like interesting per this time frame. On the 50-minute, still the sell side liquidity here, very, very clean. We've taken all high yesterday by a good measure. Then price rejected that initially below this low. And now we are in some sort of a time distortion, just banging around and marking time. There are some smooth radical highs in here, admittedly. And we push the sell side liquidity below this low. Just hanging around. Yeah, I mean, nonetheless, I feel like lower might be the way to go. But yeah, I mean, these are pretty smooth radical highs in here too, on the other hand. Which could be something to look. Some radical highs here too. All right, so a little bit of an conundrum in here from the start. A little bit of a cleanup. Right, so what's most salient for me looking at this chart is the sell side liquidity that's building up below those lows. That's for sure very, very interesting to me. We've taken multiple stages of buy side liquidity already. Most recently, we've taken those radical highs here, and we strongly rejected that below this low. So we didn't quite close below it, right? Here. We didn't quite close below it, but that could still work as a potential market structure shift. Then price went higher, retracement higher, deeper to this inefficiency here, and this as inversion for value gap there. So if that's the case, we would expect this high to be protected in a way, and we would expect lower prices, meaning this low would be the next logical objective. And because it's in close proximity to the new day opening up from Tuesday, that would be kind of like the idea. Comparing Nasdaq with ES, we can see that ES has not matched highs with Nasdaq, and it has relative equal highs like this here. Yeah, I mean, these highs on ES, I would honestly prefer to see being taken out first, and then the relative equal lows would make more sense to me. So that might be a catalyst for being still a little bit more careful with it. But yeah, as for an initial idea, that totally makes sense and speaks to me in here. So yeah, 5 minute. We have this inefficiency here since Asia, and we have also this fair value gap here. Measuring the most impulsive price swing here to the downside, we are clearly in the premium, but we are spending quite some time inside of this premium here, nonetheless. Just banging around. Well, do I have a very clear and one-sided idea at this moment? I'm still a little bit iffy. At this moment, I'm still a little bit iffy in terms of what it is. We are also a part of this larger consolidation here, so we would kind of need to break out of that first before considering really anything, I think. So yeah, 1 minute until the 3 a.m. All of the sell side is residing below this low here, and the buy side is up there. But there are some SMTs on the highs with ES, and it already sold off quite aggressively here, potentially shifting the market structure. Now retracement higher, and if that's bearish, this high should not be overtaken. If it is, then we'll see what we get, but yeah, I don't have a very, very, very clear idea. I prefer lower, I prefer shorts theoretically or technically rather than longs. But we'll see. Quick look at the calendar. We have 8:15 a.m. ADP non-farm employment change and 10 a.m. ISM services PMI. So all the heavy hitters are planned for the New York Open for today, which makes this session also a potential nothing burger, or just wait. We'll see. Good morning, Sonia, and hello, Money Glitch. Welcome. Yeah, I mean, and yes, sitting with those highs here, having this long week like this. So this definitely could send price one more time higher for the buy side on ES. That would make some sense. And if that's the case, the Nasdaq is not likely to sell off here either. Well, I think like I'm more close to like some 50-50 type of idea. Could argue both sides of the marketplace, which is not an invitation for trading this session in particular in my mind right now. But let's watch. Let's see. One hour doji candle. Yeah, that could be a doji candle. That's true. But it could end up like this. On ES, yeah. It's indecisive at this moment. It's indecisive. It's compressing into small ranges. And it's at an area of kind of like make or break, where both sides could be argued technically. And we are just hanging around in a consolidation, going sideways inside this range. This is like a gray area in here, I suppose. And as long as price stays inside this type of range in here, it doesn't really look too interesting for me personally. It's literally just marking time since 8 o'clock. 8 p.m. Asia. Well, I mean, I suppose that's fair enough, taking into consideration we have the news later. So I would definitely assume that the main move for the day will be reserved for the New York session instead of the London session. Today is Wednesday though, on an NFP week, which means that the most optimal trading is until New York's open on Wednesday. So that will be probably the best mover, and then we might see some sloppier price action. I mean, let's see. I suppose. Let's see. As I said, I don't have an opinion or a very strong opinion currently. I could argue both sides of the marketplace. It could go higher, it could go lower, and this is not high probability by my definition. I do favor slightly the buy side on ES. I like it a lot to be taken out first, still, which if that's the case on ES, then Nasdaq is likely to follow up too. But also looking at ES, we have relative equal highs and relative equal lows at the same time in here, and we are just inside that range. So that's, by definition, it's also not the highest of probability either, which takes us to the point that in which we are right now. All right, so fair enough. Fair enough. Let's see. Let's watch price do nothing. Nothing crazy. Yeah, I mean, technically, because we are at the all-time highs, pushing or making a higher high here is not impossible or unreasonable to expect. So that's kind of like always on the table for sure. But taking in consideration what price has done, as has shown so far, it really doesn't really look that interesting to engage with it with a great deal of being confident about where it wants to go next and how it could deliver. So yeah, I mean, because we are inside this time distortion, just banging around on 5-minute chart. Yeah, this week suggests potential higher prices or continuation higher towards this high here. All right, I just want to wait and see. Wait and see. No real opinion yet, as it is. So yeah, so far it's kind of like breaking higher out of this range, which is fine. I don't mind. I am completely not in a rush to do anything with it at this moment. Well, it's still very suspect, I would say. So as we are breaking higher in here, potentially, I would like to see a close above or outside of this range. If I would see a close, I would be more comfortable or more to expect that we could see a actual breakout outside of this range. All right, we failed to close above this price range. So it doesn't necessarily bound well for continuation higher, but we'll see. There is a fair value gap, busy right there at 305. The problem with this busy is that this busy is a part or inside of this large consolidation in here, which means if it's gonna go higher, it should not come back into it, it should stay and act as a breakaway gap, because there is no reason or no point to rebalance anything inside this range that's already very, very balanced out. If it does come back to it, then it would need to act as somewhat institutional or range drill and not close it altogether, right? Because if it would, then the probabilities of this offering an actual long opportunity would be falling quite significantly. Right. Also, I'm taking into consideration that if we take this entire range from the high to the low, that impulse price swing lower, we are clearly inside of like premium or deep premium of that particular range, and we've just taken relative equal highs buy side here. So if it's gonna go for those highs up there, it really should be quick, sudden, and don't come back for this fair value gap, and it should act as a breakaway gap. Well, price is still failing and resisting to close above this range high. preferring or expecting price to see and go higher. So this should not be closed. If that's the case, I mean, I do have a theory that after we swept the buy side here but showed no willingness to continue really, that we might want to offload it below those lows in here, and that would generally like make sense. As for an like little idea, so I guess that's something that I can taper it to. So yeah, I mean, if that was like a false breakout, we've taken buy side and now going for sell side, this 5-minute busy should even should not provide any support, and it should be close, and then it's likely to go lower. If you think this way, if you think that it should go higher for those relative equal highs here, then this 5-minute busy should not get closed at all. But again, both sides could be argued reasonably well. Therefore, that doesn't necessarily speak like very, very clear in terms of what should I engage in here. I do prefer lower, yes, overall, but going higher doesn't seem to be ruled out yet. Therefore waiting is my decision of choice so far. Well, I have some issues with OBS today. It disconnected me again. Well, still the bodies are staying in the upper half of this inefficiency, and it's not close entirely. So that's like the make or break. But this, by default or by all of this, this is not something I would like to go long anyway, taking into consideration the fact that we have all of this consolidation as a backdrop and that we are technically still inside of this time distortion. We didn't left it. We make an attempt to do so, but it failed. We failed to close outside of it, and now we are just banging around back in here. And yeah, right. So now reacting off of this BC, that's the portion that's left. Specifically, there is no bodies inside of it, no down bodies. So this if this stays like this, that's good enough, and it could maybe continue for the buy set here. And yeah, I will watch that now. By the way, I like this fair value gap a lot in here because there was sell side liquidity taken out, and then this is the first presented fair value gap after sell side was taken, and it's really nice and pronounced. So this little inefficiency I like a lot as a potential high probability fair value gap. Small little inefficiency on 5 minute, small little fair value gap, we tapped into it, and we are closing with the weak, this busy completely. So that's by nature, that's not bullish in my mind, and I would favor the sell side liquidity here at this point. So yeah, that's why the return to it was not expected to be a buy. Because it has all of this consolidation behind it, and there was no reason for the price to come back to it, really, if it wanted to go higher anyway. This should have stayed open. I like the reaction in here of that very small little fair value gap that we tapped into it shallowly and then quickly rejected that and closing like near the low of this candle and below this inefficiency here also. That's really landing well with potential run on the sell side liquidity here on that near-term, short-term basis that I suppose could be, if overzealous, then running towards this fair value gap here. But that's expecting quite a bit off of the price action here. So yeah, I really don't have a clear picture of what it wants to do during this hour. So far it looks like it's not prompt to break outside of this range, as it is for now at least, which makes the risk of consolidation, further consolidation or banging around way greater, which is, I suppose, fair, taking into consideration that we have all the high impact news planned for the New York Open session. So that's where the volatility will be as the session to trade, probably. And all of this will just build up sentiment ahead of that. And that's what I think, at least at the moment. So nice little 1 minute bearish for value gap in here, displacement below this low. If it would be clean and bearish, it should be selling off from here aggressively towards the sell side liquidity and just nailing it. So also thinking about this in terms of like a market maker sell model, which we are potentially seeing, that would be like smart money reversal here at the high, low risk sell here, first stage distribution, sold off, and now we are at the stage of potential second stage of redistribution being formed. But yeah, do the pronounced consolidation to the left. It's quite tricky to trust it 100%, but this is what or how I would see it at the moment. second stage of redistribution, nice large candle here. So this should continue aggressively lower with large ranges like this, and don't really stall, I suppose. So that's what I'm watching right now, whether we can see that deliver or not. So yeah, if that's correct, and this is the second stage of redistribution, price should not go above this high by any means. So it should just stay heavy and just quickly, with large range and speed, sell off, attacking the sell side liquidity altogether here, with the potential to extend its rally down to that lower imbalance outside of this range, right? And that's where it could go, or where outlook all right, after this short-term low is being taken out, it should just quickly and suddenly start expanding higher, lower, covering as much range as possible to the downside with large ranges. All right, so I believe it swept this low here by just a little bit, but yet there is this larger expansion due that should come if this is actually correct, and this is actually a market maker sell model, which it looks like, and it should quickly be attacking the sell side liquidity on the opposite side of this gray shaded box. That would be kind of like the expectation for it, for the reminder of the delivery. Any trade higher that would violate this high in here completely, like, says this idea, takes this idea away. Me personally, I wouldn't even like to see trade out above this high here, 339. We are coming back inside of this fair value gap here for the second time. And it's really like a must reaction here. It would be like a must reaction here to the downside. Yeah, I mean, that's spending a little bit more time than I would like to. Already, the range is still pretty tight, and we are still inside this large consolidation as we are. But nonetheless, if the assumption of this potential market maker sell model in here would be correct, taking consideration that we had this low risk sell, first stage distribution, and now we are still in the realm of the second stage of redistribution. So still the largest price run, price swing on the downside would be yet to unfold if the logic is correct, and it should not go above this 330 high by any means. If it does, then it's already no longer valid. Looking at the 5 minute, so yeah, I mean, this is like a good little study in here, because I already stated that I don't know necessarily very clearly what it wants to do. That I'm like a little bit of 50-50. I could argue higher and I could argue lower on the at the same time. And then we started having this type of potential market maker sell model, but in a condition that is not necessarily super one-sided by definition. And we can still study this, how it delivers, and expect it to deliver where it should deliver, right? And if it goes well and actually it clears the sell side here and does a nice second stage, then that's like great study and great experience to get. But at the same time, if it would fail, right, if it go to a certain point and fail, then that wouldn't be like a problem or something to be upset about, due to the fact that these conditions already were expected to be less likely to deliver, low probability by definition. And yeah, so I'm watching this for the last 10 minutes in here for the macro, still assuming that we are in the second stage of redistribution area of this market maker sell model here, that has yet to deliver its run to the sell side. And if it delivers, that's amazing, that's beautiful. But if it doesn't, then I would be already expecting it to fail. If it were meant to fail, this would be the conditions that I would expect it to fail. But if everything is to deliver, then it should be delivering from this area, and it should be quick, aggressive, and with large ranges to the downside. So that's as black and white, as binary that I can make it at this point. And I don't care what it does. That's also the thing. I don't care what it does. So yeah, already spending a little bit too much time inside of this fair value gap. And now again poking above it, outside of it. It needs to quickly reject it now and really send the price aggressively lower. I believe that's still in the cards at this moment, as long as this high is not being violated by a closing price above it. I assume that the second stage is still possibly in the cards. It might not be the cleanest one, it might not be the most pronounced one, but that's like the expectation here on my part. Well, we'll see. I don't know. I really don't know what wants to do this time around here. It's just banging around. So this time distortion. Now hovering some higher. And it looks like it's gonna trade back into that 5-minute bearish fair value gap, but also to this inversion and likely be sweeping this high, which already I don't necessarily like that. If that was the second stage, then it failed here. I mean, that was the deliver here. It took this short-term low and this short-term low, and that was it for a second stage. So if that's the case, if we take out this high, then that was the second stage that we got. And that wouldn't be necessarily what I would look for, right? If I were short in here and got this little blip lower and then come back and go higher like this, I wouldn't view this as something that I like to be in by any means. In terms of that particular model, right? But you know, this is the issue with those conditions. They are a little bit more challenging. Now we came back up into that 5-minute premium fair value gap again, and this inversion fair value gap here again. And that's a little bit like a make or break type of point. If it would to still be bearish, it would need to go back below this 332 CB. It would need to really go quickly below it, and then sell side could be again in play. Right now, I really don't know. All right, so far we traded to this inversion for value gap here and at 5-minute bearish for value gap. Only shallowly with wicks and no bodies were placed inside of it on 1 minute. So if it were to turn around, that would be the moment for it to do so. And if quickly go below the CB, then that would be potentially game on for the sell side liquidity again. Otherwise, I just don't know what it wants to do here at the moment. So basically right now it would need to, with large range drop below this CB, don't use it as bullish inversion for value gap. So just straight away close below it. And then that would be like reclaimed CB to potentially run lower, but yeah. That's like another little case study dealing with low probability conditions and how price action looks in low probability. All right, so nonetheless, looks like this is the business for today, for today's long open session at least. My bias was 50-50, and that we are in time distortion, that I kind of like need to wait for price to move outside of. Price did fail to move outside of it as it is during this time, and it was offering this prolonged consolidation still. So yeah, that's what it is for this long open session. I'll be back for the morning 10 to 11 silver bullet for the New York Open, New York AM session, and we'll see what we'll get there. Until then, thanks for watching. Kudos to you for standing with me through all of this, and see you guys later.